Hey everybody. Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different from what I normally do. We're going to be talking about the album Velocity, Design, Comfort by Sweet Trip. First thing I want to say is that a long while ago I did a poll. You guys were able to vote on, what album I reacted to next on, my schedule of reactions. And I never got around to this one, and I'm sure there was like a decent chunk of people that wanted me to react to this album. The reason why I didn't react to this album is because the album kind of got spoiled for me, and I didn't want to do a reaction where it wasn't genuine. I didn't want to fake and just be like, oh yeah, I've never heard this before, that's stupid. But I still really wanted to have the chance to talk about this album because I absolutely adore it. So pretty much what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through each of the tracks on the album. I'm going to give you my score for each of those tracks and also just kind of give my overall thoughts on them. I may try and start a smaller series based off of this idea of just talking about an album that I've already heard. Let me know if you guys are interested in any thoughts on any of the albums I may have already heard. But let's just start doing this because I have a lot to say, and yeah, there's a lot of songs on this album. So the first song on the album is Tekka. When I first heard this song, I was extremely confused because jumping into this, it was like, I was expecting shoegaze and I haven't heard much from the genre IDM or anything like that. So this was just a complete surprise 180. But it's fucking awesome. It's not my favorite song on the album or anything, but it does a really good job at kind of catching you off guard, but also letting you know what you're getting into. It's super glitchy, super all over the place, but the production and everything that goes into it is just super duper cool. Genuinely awesome. I just want to say the production is incredible on this track and the entire album. But this track, it shows a lot of versatility with just the panning and the whole dynamic back and forth with how everything's used. And for it being no vocals, nothing like that, it's really cool. Again, not my favorite song, but still a really cool track to open up the album with. I'd give it a solid 9 out of 10. I love this song. Following up the first track, it's definitely a lot different. It's a little bit more, I guess, indie rock centric, but at the same time it's so, I don't know, it feels indie rock, but it's very electronic as well. I just love the drum pattern, and I love the vocals and the chorus. It's so catchy, so nostalgic. There's just a lot going on, and such an endlessly memorable track. I just love everything about it. This whole thing came out in 2003, which just absolutely blows my mind. What? Literally zero problems with it. Easy 10. Alright, this one's a bit of a strange one for me. When I first heard this song, it was probably one of my least favorites on the album. It still isn't an absolute favorite, but it's grown on me a lot. It's a long song, it's 8 minutes, but it does keep itself interesting the whole time. I think this song, for me, is kind of like a transitional moment in a way, but it's still a whole just vibe. I think the vocals are really cool whenever they pop up. Once again, the production is just super cool, interesting, has a lot going on. There's a lot of detail. They're just little tiny blips and bloops that they just throw in there, and it's you didn't have to do that, but you did, and it makes it even cooler. I just really like the synths, and I like the whole vibe to it. I'd give this one around a 9 out of 10. Fruitcake and cookies. You know what? I'm actually gonna look up the lyrics right now. I'm curious. Damn. Okay, this is kind of sad. From the 6 lines in this song. This song is another just unbelievable track. I think they're just like harmonics or something. They're doing some weird thing on the guitar that's just great. It's so infectious, so cool with the production and how it's produced and panned and everything. The melody is super sweet and just almost tragic. The breakdown baby part, that's just like ascension. That's just like you're floating up to the gods. I just love the wall of noise. If you can give me a good like shoegaze wall of noise track, you got me hooked. I love shoegaze so much, so just, I mean, that song is just perfect in that area, but also does a lot of stuff to make it stand out and make it unique. 10 out of 10. The only lyric in this song is "this time maybe it's true." Okay. This song is pretty cool though. It's another longer track. Still another pretty cool vibe song. I do think this one is a little less memorable when compared to like Velocity, which is kind of the other vibey song. It's still pretty cool, has a nice atmosphere, a lot of the same cool production, you know, tricks and stuff like that. It's definitely not one of my favorites on the album, but still a very good track. I'd give it an 8 out of 10. This song is a banger, okay? This song goes hard. When I first heard this, immediately I thought of Mario Kart. You cannot tell me this does not sound like it could be in the background while racing. It totally fits. But besides that, this song is really, really good. It does have the most resemblance to the first track, I think. The section where like it stops the energetic part too and it goes to the really peaceful, nice part is beautiful as well. It's genuinely beautiful. This is just another song where I really don't have any problems with it. It's just super good and I love the whole vibe to it. Even with this album's shifts in energy, I don't really find that a problem because it all flows super well, and this track is a good example of that. Considering some of the other tracks before this were a little bit more laid back, this one brings up the energy but still kind of fits within the album sound. So yeah, it gets a 10. I love it. This song is probably my least favorite on the album. There's nothing really wrong with it, it just doesn't really stand out to me as much as some of the other tracks. It's still a pretty cool track though overall. It's like, it has some, again, more of that really interesting production. Honestly, a little bit more laid back too. If anything, I just kind of see it as a transitional moment. Still a pretty neat track. I'd overall give this song a 7.5 out of 10.
Only it's true when you make me die in your hands.
This song is a lot to take in. This song hits my heart so much. God, it's beautiful. It is beautiful. It's the longest song on the album, and I'm invested the entire time. It's just beautiful. The whole intro, the kind of more electronic part, it's all produced so well, so interesting. The melody, the lyrics, it all just hits me in the core. It's honestly just so impressive. It's so unique. I've never heard just anything like it. Easily one of my favorite songs on the album. Probably like top 3. 10 out of 10.
I know you too well. I know you too well.
This is, I think, the best of the vibe songs on this album. This song just has a very smooth vibe. It's like the melody's catchy. I really love the drum beat too, and just like the main synth that's used. Feels like you're kind of just coasting along, and I really like that, especially after kind of one of the more pivotal emotional tracks on the album. The little at the end is also awesome. Even though it is one of the more chill, just like smooth tracks, I'd still give it a 10. I love it. I just think it's perfect placement wise, and there's a lot to like about it. I think that shows how much I love that song. I think this is my favorite song on the album. There's just something about it that fucking kills me, like, emotionally. It's beautiful. It's so pretty. It's so pretty. The melody and the lyrics are just like, oh my god. And I love the chord progression, the little synth solo, and I love just the freaking part where it busts down and gets more shoegazy. I'd say this is definitely one of the more shoegaze-oriented songs on the album, like just solely shoegaze, but it still fits so well with the rest of the album. It's so good. It's so good. So good. I would give this song an 11 out of 10 if I could. You know what? Fuck it, I will. I'll give it an 11 out of 10. This song pretty much summarizes everything I love about this album. This song is Ascension. The whole song is just beautiful front to back. It's like the opening synth melody, the boom doo 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 doo. It's another one of those songs that hits me in the heart. Whoever the vocalist is, they do a fantastic job. The way it progresses and the way it builds to that one moment where it becomes like super shoegazy. It's awesome. It's a very dreamy song. It feels like I'm floating in the clouds, you know, in a way dancing. It's a really nice song to have on the back end of the album because it genuinely feels like it should be there. Another 10. What a surprise. The closer. So you had Design 1, right? Where I thought it was fine, right? But then you have Design 2 and 3. Initially, this was a very strange closer to me, but holy shit. I love it now. It's so weird because the first and second half of the song are completely different from each other. You have just a complete breakdown shoegaze part. It's just a stark difference from then when you get to the second half, which is just full-on beauty. Like, God, just, oh my God, it is, it pierces my soul for being the closer. It's such a good wrap-up. It feels like such an appropriate, just, because, you know, you have the parts of the album where it's more energetic and fast-paced and a little bit more electronic, which just kind of resembles the first half. And then the second half, you know, you have the more beautiful, gorgeous parts of the album kind of summed up. Not only that, but the lyrics are beautiful. This is one of the songs I do know lyrically just because I loved it so much and I wanted to look it up. Reach for the sun and miss the sunlight. Sing your song to the girl and share the light. Reach for a breath, don't mind to wait long. Living under your spell and the core of you. It's like... It's beautiful. It really is. And it just goes so well with the absolutely amazing soundscape. Like, genuinely one of the most beautiful soundscapes I've ever heard in a song. And that's saying a lot. Like, that is saying a lot. So yeah, if you can't tell, I'm a huge fan of this closer. And another song that gets a 10. Gorgeous. So yeah, those are my overall thoughts on each of the individual songs. Now, before I get to my final rating, I want to talk about some more things that I really just love with this album. Once again, the production, the entire way through is absolutely phenomenal. I genuinely think it's one of the best produced albums I've ever heard, maybe. It's definitely up there with some of my favorite, like, produced albums. It's so well done and so interesting. It's so captivating. And listening to it in the car or even just with headphones, it's so satisfying. The second thing I really want to mention is this album flows so well together. Like, oh my God. A lot of the songs have like a little end bit that kind of is like a bunch of noise. And initially it'd be like, well, what's the point of this? But it serves as a really, really cool transition piece whenever you're listening to the whole thing. And with this album specifically, this is one of those albums where whenever I do put it on, I want to listen to the entire thing front to back. Because the whole album feels like this one giant experience. To me, the best way to describe the feeling of this album is falling in love with a robot in space. Oddly specific, I know, but that's what I get. The singing, the performances with the instruments, and just the overall unique and beautiful quality of this album is seriously something special. This album is unlike anything I've ever heard, and I don't know if I'll ever hear anything else like it. It's just so, it has, its influences and its genres, but like it genuinely feels like a very, very unique experience. Ever since I first heard this thing, I think early in the summer, that's kind of when I started, hearing some of the songs. I've just pretty much been listening to it a ton ever since then, just because it's definitely up there with some of my favorite albums ever, probably. Even if every single song isn't perfect, like the whole experience and some of the best moments on this album are some of my favorite musical moments just ever. So yeah, I have a lot of love for this album. I can totally see why you guys suggested it to me, and I'm sorry it didn't become a full reaction, but I try to make my reactions genuine, and I feel like I had just heard too much of this album just to make it a full reaction video. But I'm glad I got to talk about it here, and so my overall score for the album is 9.6 out of 10. Thank you so much for watching, really appreciate it, but yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one.